Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. The 501st Legion is one of the most recognized and decorated units in the entire Grand Army of the Republic. Led by the charismatic and ambitious Jedi General Anakin Skywalker, the 501st has been involved in some of the toughest battles the Republic has had to face during the Clone Wars. Today we'll be taking a look at every major deployment that the 501st was involved in. Every clone trooper ready for combat on Kamino was present at the Battle of Geonosis. This was one of the largest battles of the war, and the entire Grand Army of the Republic, totaling more than 200,000 troopers, was sent into a suicidal frontal assault against the Separatist droid army. The 501st Legion, which was made up of 10,000 troopers, would be deployed as an entire unit. This would be the only time during the Clone Wars where the 501st Legion wasn't separated into smaller groups and placed on different battlefronts. The Grand Army of the Republic had hardly been assembled when it shipped off for the irradiated plains of Geonosis. Whatever command structure was hastily assembled by the Jedi was clearly not sufficient enough to allow for a very coordinated attack on the Separatist droid foundries. Generally, a Legion is commanded by a senior clone commander, but whenever a Jedi General is available, they usually will step in and take control. We're not 100% sure who commanded the 501st Legion during the Battle of Geonosis, but we do know that the clones were deployed in parade formation and essentially led straight into rows and rows of Separatist fortifications and blaster cannon positions. It was a bloodbath, and it wasn't uncommon for entire units to suffer more than 50% casualties. This first Battle of Geonosis would really awaken the clones to the horrors and reality of this war that they were going to be involved in for the next 4 years. It would shatter any illusions and propaganda fed to them while they were training on Kamino about what warfare would actually be like. The careless leader from certain Jedi commanders during this battle would create a foundation of hate and mistrust that the clones would carry throughout the entire war and finally release during Order 66. During the Battle of Geonosis, millions of Separatist droids had been stored in Lucre Hulk battleships over the surface of the planet. These droids all successfully escaped the aftermath of the battle and would spread across the galaxy and start attacking Republic worlds. Completely outnumbered and outmaneuvered, the survivors of the Battle of Geonosis would reassemble into smaller units and attempt to stop all of these Separatist invasions. The 501st would deploy Torrent Company to the world of Christophsis. The local planetary defense force there was barely holding on in small pockets of resistance against the Separatist alliance. Separatist Admiral Trench had created a massive blockade around the planet, cutting off all food and aid supplies to the planet, and General Warm Loathsome had encircled the survivors with Separatist tank columns and mechanized infantry. After Anakin Skywalker uses a stealth ship to take out Admiral Trench's flagship, the Republic would break through the blockade and establish their own base on the planet. Torrent Company, which consisted of around 150 clones, would join the 212th Attack Battalion under Obi-Wan Kenobi. The fighting on Christophsis mainly revolved around the urban areas where skyscrapers presented challenging vertical environments and large avenues allowed for the use of armored vehicles and mechanized units. It was during this battle that Echo and Fives, survivors of the Rishi listening post attack, would join the 501st. Torrent Company would be instrumental in defending a battery of AV-7 anti-vehicle artillery cannons from a Separatist tank column under the command of General Worm Loathsome. The Separatists were able to use a mobile deflector shield to guard their approach and neutralize the incoming AV-7 cannon fire. Torrent Company would suffer heavy casualties until Obi-Wan Kenobi, using the flag of truce, took General Loathsome hostage. Sure, it completely violates galactic standards and laws for combat, but Obi-Wan Kenobi's actions does save Torrent Company from being completely wiped out. One of the major parts of the opening Separatist offensive against the Republic was the seizure of hyperspace lanes that led from the core worlds into the Outer Rim. The goal was to strand Republic outposts in the Outer Rim and keep Republic reinforcements and supplies from reaching them. The one problem standing in the way of the Separatists was Hutt space, which was technically neutral and bordered both Republic space and the Separatist-controlled portions of the Outer Rim. In order to gain more leverage with the Hutt clans, Asajj Ventress is tasked by Count Dooku to steal the child of Jabba the Hutt, Rhoda. Jabba is unaware that the Separatists are behind this kidnapping and calls upon both the Republic and the Separatists and mercenaries to find his son. Whoever can find his son will be rewarded with the trust of the Hutt clans and most likely access to their neutral territory. Grandmaster Yoda arrives on Christophsis with reinforcements and secures the planet. He brings news that Rhoda the Hutt might be hidden in a monastery on the world of Teth and sends Anakin Skywalker with Torrent Company to investigate. The 501st arrive on Teth and find the monastery guarded by 2 battle droid battalions. Skywalker decides to land his forces a few kilometers away from the monastery, which is perched on a plateau surrounded by steep cliffs. The 501st and their ATTEs are forced to climb a vertical cliff face in order to reach their mission objective. They're doing this all under heavy fire. It's an extremely difficult operation and a very foolish maneuver, but as usual, Anakin Skywalker leads from the front and does just enough to ensure that his risky frontal assault succeeds. Torrent Company suffers heavy casualties, but the Republic win the day and take the monastery and secure Rhoda the Hutt. Around this time, the 501st would also be engaged during the Battle of Mimban. The Battle of Mimban would be one of the many conflicts that began during the Clone Wars and would not stop with the rise of the New Order. The 501st and the 224th Mudjumpers were under the command of Lantik and Captain Rex. They would attempt to train and assist the local Lacento tribe in their fight against the Separatist droid invasion. During one battle, General Tick is killed and Junior Senator Jar Jar Binks takes up his lightsaber and actually saves Captain Rex's life with it, proving once again that the Junior Senator from Naboo was in fact Force-sensitive and most likely a Dark Lord. The 501st, including Captain Rex, would eventually be redeployed elsewhere, and the 224th Mudjumpers would remain on Mimban for basically the rest of the war. Mandalore was an extremely important planet during the Clone Wars. Both the Confederacy of Independent Systems and the Republic coveted their allegiance. This was because Mandalore's leader, Duchess Satine, was at the head of the Council of Neutral Systems, which was a coalition of more than 1,500 Republic star systems who wanted to remain neutral during the Clone Wars. After a series of terrorist attacks targeted Duchess Satine and her pacifist new Mandalorian government, the Republic offered to send military forces to keep her and her government safe. Duchess Satine decides to travel to Coruscant to plead her case to the Galactic Senate and stop the Republic from sending clones to her world. A mixed platoon of 501st and 212th Attack Battalion clones were stationed on board of her ship, along with Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Their job was to protect Duchess Satine from potential terrorist attacks, which came in the form of several spider-like assassin probes that would release smaller poison-filled droids when they were destroyed. With the help of the Jedi, the 501st managed to foil this plot against Satine Kryze and bring her safely to her destination. From very early on in the war, the Confederacy of Independent Systems played around with bioweapons since their entire military force was made out of inorganic droids. Amongst the CIS's many operatives was an individual named Dr. Nuvo Vindi, a Faust scientist and epidemiologist who specialized in dangerous viruses. Unfortunately for the rest of the galaxy, Dr. Vindi developed a very unhealthy appreciation and infatuation for viruses he was working with, including the extremely deadly Blue Shadow virus. Padme Amidala had been visiting her home planet of Naboo when she discovered Vindi's lab, which was hidden in the eastern swamps of her planet. She was immediately captured by Vindi's security droids and taken hostage by the Doctor. Republic forces would eventually discover the location of the base as well, and Captain Rex would lead a platoon of 501st soldiers in an assault against Vindi's lab. The stakes for this mission was extremely high. The Blue Shadow virus had a 96% mortality rate within 48 hours of exposure, and now it was also transmissible through the air. This was a part of the weaponization process that Dr. Vindi had put the virus through. The 501st lacked the proper protective equipment, but went ahead anyway into the underground lab. They managed to disrupt Dr. Vindi's operation and arrest him, but not before one of his Blue Shadow virus bombs was detonated, infecting all of the Republic forces in the base. Fortunately, a cure would be found before the first clone died from the virus. Now, Kamino has always been a huge target for Separatist attack. It was the only place in the galaxy where the clones were bred and trained. If you could destroy the facilities there, it would be a huge blow to the JR's ability to replace their casualties. It would also deeply affect the morale of the clones. When the Republic intercepted transmissions between the Confederate General Grievous and assassin Asajj Ventress about a potential attack on Kamino, the 501st Legion was sent to reinforce the troops guarding Tipica City. When the Separatist Alliance arrived in orbit, the Republic fleet engaged and managed to destroy several Confederate ships. Unbeknownst to the Republic forces, the debris that fell from these ships into Kamino's orbit were actually specially designed to house droid assault teams. These pieces of debris were ignored by Republic defenders and made it right past their blockade. Once beneath the waves, Aqua droids would emerge from the depths and attack Typica City from below. The 501st were completely overwhelmed by the Aqua droid attack, but several clone troopers would fight to the death defending their home planet and the young cadets living on the platform. There are also many heroes that day who survived, like Troopers Echo and Fives, who were immediately promoted to become ARC troopers. The 501st would play a huge part in the successful defense of their home planet. Umbara was probably one of the most difficult campaigns that the 501st was involved in. It wasn't just because the planet was extremely inhospitable or the fact that they were facing an extremely advanced enemy faction with weapons tech they had never seen. It was also one of the few missions in which Anakin Skywalker was taken from the command position and replaced by an unknown individual. Shortly after the 501st successfully completed their landing operations, General Pong Krell came with orders to recall Anakin Skywalker, and pretty much things started going downhill from there. Krell was recognized as a war hero and as an individual who got things done. But there was a troubling side to his leadership as well. Generally, the clones beneath his command suffered heavy casualties, and the general had very little respect for the rank-and-file clones and treated them like expendable battle droids. Captain Rex was placed in an awkward position between the Jedi General and his own brothers in the 501st, who quickly became fed up by the high casualties their unit suffered during this campaign. General Krell failed to properly scout the 501st movements and also failed to recognize how to use terrain properly to his advantage. That, combined with the local Umbaran's superior technology and weapons, drove a huge wedge between the clone troopers and their commanding officer. When the 501st finally managed to take their objective in Umbaran Airport, 3 clones, Hardcase, Jesse, and Fives, took Umbaran starfighters on an unsanctioned mission, which resulted in the destruction of the Separatist command ship controlling the fleet in the orbital battle above Umbara. This heroic act was not approved by General Krell, who then orders an execution of those involved in the mission. In a rare act of defiance, the members of the 501st refused to kill their own brothers for their heroic actions. Before Krell could react, though, the 501st is sent on another mission. A group of Umbarans had supposedly captured clone trooper armor and were now advancing on their position. The 501st would meet these imposter clones on the battlefield and began exchanging small arms and mortar fire until Captain Rex realized that they were actually engaging friendly troops. This skirmish unfortunately led to several friendly fire casualties between the 501st and the 212th Attack Battalion. The clone officers in both units realized that it was Pong Krell who set up this unfortunate incident. So at this point, the clones return to the airbase and arrest Pong Krell for his crimes. One of Krell's most arduous defenders, Dogma, ends up killing Pong Krell while he's in captivity. Because Dogma had basically followed every one of Pong Krell's terrible orders, he felt very betrayed. Dogma would be arrested for his actions as well. The betrayal of Pong Krell really shook the 501st's relationship with the Jedi Order. But then the Battle of Ringo Vinda happened. The 501st were deployed on the planet's massive circular space station, which currently was under the control of Separatist forces led by Admiral Trench. This was an extremely difficult battle that mainly featured CQB situations within tight, narrow corridors. The use of heavy weapons and explosives was limited in this battle because there was a lot of fear that someone would vent the entire station into vacuum. Clone Trooper Tup of the 501st during one firefight goes haywire and just shoots Jedi General Tiplar in the back of the head. The Battle of Ringo Vinda essentially pauses after the shocking event. Both sides of the battle attempt to figure out what exactly happened. The Separatists try to get their hands on Tup, and a battle ensues for the damaged clone. It's later discovered that Tup had an inhibitor chip placed inside of his brain. Actually, all clones have this chip inserted into their brains, and his malfunctioned, which caused them to prematurely carry out Order 66. The Battle of Anaxes was a Separatist offensive late in the war that threatened the heart of the Republic. Equipped with an advanced battle algorithm supplied by captured clone trooper Echo, Admiral Trench was quickly able to take the Republic fortress world and hold off any attempts by the Republic to take it back. A small team of 501st Legion soldiers would join forces with Commander Cody and Clone Force 99 and try to attempt to recover Echo from Separatist control. They ultimately are successful, and by depriving Trench of his secret weapon, the momentum of the battle swings back into the Republic's favor. In the final skirmish of the Battle of Anaxes, the 501st, under the command of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mace Windu, would successfully take the Separatist assembly complex. They would also find and defuse a massive fusion bomb that Trench had left behind as a surprise. During the Battle of Coruscant, Anakin was forced to split the 501st Legion into 2 separate groups. This is when the 332nd Division was created from a unit within the 501st. They were tasked with retaking Mandalore from Maul and his followers. Captain Rex would lead the 332nd Division. When he heard that his old friend, former Jedi Ahsoka Tano, would return to help, the entire 332nd painted their helmets in honor of the Togruta Padawan. The 332nd Division would also be equipped with jetpacks and assist the Night Owl faction of the Mandalorians to retake the planet. The mission was relatively successful, and Maul's defenders were quickly outnumbered and outgunned. Unfortunately, the majority of the 332nd Division would perish on the Venator-class Star Destroyer Tribunal when the clones attempted to execute Order 66 against Ahsoka Tano. Tano would be forced to join forces with Maul, and together they would basically destroy the Star Destroyer, buying themselves some time to escape. Meanwhile, back on Coruscant, the 501st, under the leadership of Commander Appo and Anakin Skywalker, helped carry out Operation Knightfall, a pacification mission against the Jedi Temple. This would be one of the toughest missions the 501st would encounter, as their enemies would be primarily Force-sensitive combatants. Many members of the 501st would fall during this battle, but ultimately they would succeed in containing and wiping out the Jedi threat. So as you can see, the 501st was pretty much deployed in almost every major battle, every major theater, every major front, and this usually happened because the 501st Legion was split into smaller groups that were more appropriate for the types of missions that they were going on. Anyway, the 501st would survive the Clone Wars and the Rise of the New Order, and they would once again be under the leadership of Anakin Skywalker, but of course this time he would be known as Darth Vader. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed our history of the 501st during the Clone Wars. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. And also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.